Hello, hi, I'm Ashia, and this is my reawakening of my YouTube channel where now I have more of a clear focus of integrating spirituality and creativity and realizing how art is a rebellious path and how art is a spiritual path and the intersection of creativity and consciousness. I particularly am a artist. I do different types of arts, ceramicist, I did dance, and I could talk more about my journey later, but right now specifically this is the first journey or the first video of me starting the journey of working on my debut novel, which is called Project Stock Market, which I will talk more about in a different video. This video in particular is talking about me reclaiming my passion for writing and specifically fiction writing, and even more now I could say that I'm a speculative fiction writer, meaning I write fantasy and sci-fi, but it is horror. It's psychological horror at the end of the day in fantasy and sci-fi places, specifically psychological horror, and just a lot of genre bending things that I'm doing. And I really like using that as a medium to explore philosophical principles or fundamental truths about the universe and humanity, and it is much more expansive with me doing it that way. And I was only able to get here because I burnt down my business. I had a coaching business that I started in 2020. I have more reflections later, but since I don't want this to be such a super long video, and maybe it's a video I'll touch on specifically if it's wanting to know more about that process and that journey of having that particular business. But I had a spiritual coaching business. It was very aligned how I got it. I had an astrology reading like a couple months before, and I was not really paying much attention to it. And then different things started happening in my life in terms of job security, in terms of like the pandemic happening, in terms of me having my first child, and just a lot of external factors were showing me that there was a different path for me to take, or something for me to learn from on a different path. And so I took that path of opening my own business about like the spiritual things that I had learned, about the psychology that I had studied, about philosophy that I studied, understanding emotions. And at the core of it, I just didn't value what I was doing. And it had nothing to do with what I was doing. It did eventually have something to do with what I was doing, but because this was a stepping stone now that I'm seeing, it was a pillar on my path. I'm seeing how that was actually meant for me to learn more about myself and open up and see the value of what I was bringing and providing. I'm reflecting now on that business, and I've just felt like I'm in a grieving stage of uh-oh. I'm in a grieving stage of where I am no longer able to be the person that I was. I'm no longer able to downplay my gifts. I'm no longer able to say that I'm not actually going to pursue this as a path. I am no longer able to say that I doubt myself or I don't value what I do, because that would be incongruent with the shadow work that I've been doing. That would be incongruent with all of the time taken off, because I closed my business in February of 2024, but I was pregnant all through 2023 with my third baby, and I was basically on sabbatical. I wasn't selling anything in 2023, but I was still making money. I was still doing events. I was still having income streams. And so throughout all of 2024, up until like October, I had no income stream. And then up in October, I got a part-time job just to have some type of money coming in. And in October, I also started to go back to school for specifically creative writing. And so like so many things have been upheld and changed. I'm just reflecting on my Saturn return as well is happening, and so it's like a lot of things happening energetically that's like getting me back to where I actually in my soul is actually calling me and what I actually value in myself. And I've always been a creative. I went to high school. I went to performing arts high school. I did many creative projects in my after school hobbies. I was writing before I even actually conceptualized that I wanted to be a writer, because that was something that was always pushed to the back burner. I have many shadows and micro aggressions and different things and self-talk. Why does this keep not focusing? And different self-talk that made me believe that I could not be a writer. And so after having this business and seeing how other people valued what I was giving, I realized that I didn't actually want to sell anything. That's not what I wanted to do, at least not right now. And I had to find inherent value in what I had. And what I have is my voice. What I have is my creativity. What I have is my perspective, my worldview, my heart, my voice. And that is valuable. And while I didn't see value in it, that's what was my journey in my business. There was so many times where I'm like, I don't know what I'm passionate about. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what my purpose is. Was valid at the time, I guess, but it was actually just a coping mechanism for not wanting to honor the truth that I had and not wanting to honor at a soul level the discomfort and the fears that I would have to face and the belief that I had in myself that I would have to recultivate in order to reclaim the thing that I loved and I have always loved and have always come back to unconsciously without even realizing it. Because as I was sitting through the fear of not having an income, sitting through the fear of ending a business that I had been doing for 4 years, ending the fear of like, what does this mean about me? Embracing the fear of the ginormous mistakes that I was making in my business towards the end and how I had to re-establish those relationships and fill up some things that I done and I take full responsibility for, even if there is no even if things that were occurring that I had to take full responsibility for and really sit back and reflect in myself and see the shadows and the fears that were repeating even as I was healing and growing and expanding and evolving. I had to see how my heart and my mind had been corrupted in the things that I was unwilling to be honest with myself about. And once I did all of that, the only thing that I was wanting to come back to was reading. The only thing that I wanted to do was write and scribble and journal and just get words on the page that was expressing how I was feeling, doodling in my sketchbook, watching writers on YouTube, and it's just reading poetry journals, reading short stories, getting so deep into fiction again. Like I was reading before, but then I like deep dove and swam in like words and worlds and languages and studying etymology and reinvigorating my love for philosophy and storytelling and archetypes and humanity. And especially in the world that we're living in now, it's like I burned down my business so that the flames could purify me and that I could be reborn as a phoenix, so that this phoenix is rebirthed and seeing the world around her burning down and seeing that that needs to be purified in the flames as well. And how can I purify? How can I contribute to that purification? And it is creating art. I even earlier today watched a TED Talk saying you should be creating art even though the world is burning down, because that is going to help the world burn down and be reborn anew. It's creativity, it's art, it's artist, it's worldview, it's perspective. It's like thinking about why do you think journalists get killed? It's about the humanity and the stories that get to be documented and seen and empathized with. And that's why we're having such an uproar in that, I think, on different social media platforms, is that we get to see people's humanity. We get to reconnect with our humanity. We get to see the inner reflections and inner workings of our emotional world that we are told to ignore on a daily basis. And I feel like my Saturn return, since Saturn is the planet of maturity and growth and structure and discipline, and it being in the house of Pisces and conjunct my Venus in the 9th house, for me, it's all about my beliefs, how I'm showing up, what I believe, dogma, even self-beliefs, religious beliefs, philosophical beliefs, also going back to school and institutionalized systems and all of those things that interlap with each other. But in Pisces, that spiritual, dreamy, drowning depth of darkness and despair and emotional sea soup. That water, while being structured with that earth of Saturn, but being in that 9th house that's ruled by fire, it just feels like such a culmination of all of the energies that are happening. And that's also like the creative. Venus and Pisces together is such a creative placement in the 9th house. in that house of expansion. And so seeing how my Saturn return has actually allowed me to expand in that way. I really hope this is loud enough because I don't know what happened to my microphone. So I have to buy another microphone. And so hopefully this is loud enough. I am using my camera, so I know it's not going to be as loud as my phone. Maybe I can speak up. I'm probably whispering because I'm a little uncomfortable filming out here. But like, I walked away from my business that I was making $5,000 to $10,000 a month, and that's more than my mama ever made in her entire lifetime. We were on food stamps all the way up until she died. Like, there was times when I came home and the lights were off. There were like that financial trauma, that financial instability, that living on the poverty line your entire life, that I'm still working through financial roadblocks necessarily, like in spending money and investing in myself, buying things for myself. Like, I don't even like my clothes because after giving birth and like having to get rid of all my clothes because my clothes fit completely differently, and I've never felt comfortable investing in that because my mom didn't feel comfortable investing in that. So that's not something we did. It was something that happened as a special occasion. And so like all of these different fears that I was working with around money, about not making any money, like after leaving a job, not like a job that I cultivated for myself, like I did that for myself, of creating $5,000 to $10,000 a month was catastrophic for me. Like, even when I was on sabbatical, I was making $3,000 to $5,000 a month when I wasn't actively selling anything. There were just opportunities after opportunities after opportunities coming, and I burned that down because I realized that I was so spiritually unaligned that I was becoming a part of the system that I did not like, a part of the system that I wanted to rebel against, a part of the system that I instinctively know is being destroyed before our eyes. And I kept trying to add to that system because of that financial instability, because of that needing to prove myself, because no matter what I was doing, like even I started my YouTube channel all those years ago, and it was actually doing well for a beginning channel, and I just could not see the value in myself. Therefore, I could not see the value in anything that I was doing. And therefore, no matter what I did, no matter what I said, no matter what I accomplished, it still didn't feel like I was enough. It still didn't feel like I was being validated. It still didn't feel like I could find a way to believe in myself or value myself or see my worth or anything like that, that I could even try to contribute to the greater collective. Like, that was not occurring at all. So I was like, I had to put on my Life Path 11 boots and really take the time to go into hermit mode and sit with those fears, sit with the complexities, sit with the paradoxes, sit with the intense emotions. Instead of trying to kill them off, instead of trying to heal them, instead of trying to fix them, instead of trying to get rid of them, I had to sit in that. And that's what Saturn was teaching me, is sitting in that shit, sitting through all of that, realizing all of the things for my mother and my mom, and my freaking camera's about to die. Maybe I'll use my iPad. But sitting in that nothingness and sitting in that uncertainty is how I was able to find my passion again, because the thing that I was doing in utter and complete boredom was writing. The thing that I was doing was reading. The thing that I was doing was studying archetypes and learning more about archetypes. Those were the things that I was naturally drawn to. And so now it's just like, oh, well, that's just my path. That's just my calling. That's what I do when nobody is looking. That's who I am when nobody is paying attention. That's who I am. That's what I do. That's what I think about. That's how I actively live my life when I don't feel like I need to prove myself, when I don't feel like I need to become extraordinary, when I don't need to do fill in the blank here. Like, even through this, I actively hear my ego being like, nobody's going to care about this video. Nobody's going to care about this recounting. Nobody's going to listen to this story. This is rambling mumbo jumbo. And I'm just actively like, okay, that's great. And because even after all of that, I'm thinking about it right now. I can remember the first time I submitted a poem, and it was a short one, and I submitted it to some literary journal that was being published in my area when I was growing up. And I told my mom about it, and it was laughed off. It was seen as frivolous. She told me that I can worry about those types of things later when I was actually established and successful. And I was like, very disheartened and defeated, because it wasn't the first time that she said stuff like that. It wasn't the first time that this idea in my head is that art is something that you do on the side, but it cannot be your career. It's not how you make an impact. It's not how you add value. It's not something that you see in a way that matters. It's something that you indulge in. It's something that you see as fun, but it is not something that you do long term as a life and as a career, which is ridiculous when I think about it, because she put me in a performing arts high school, but it was like writing was not seen as something that was valuable in my household, in my life, and therefore I didn't see the value in something that I loved. And I read more than anybody in my family, and now seeing that, because I don't just see it as writing, I don't just see it as a story, I see it as like a telling of creativity, a telling of humanity and of archetypes, even if you can't relate directly to the actions that happen in the story, the lessons, the understanding, the trauma, the conflicts, the tension, the relationships, the dynamics, all of those things, all of those archetypes are a avenue for greater self-awareness, an avenue to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, an avenue to see something else that you wouldn't have seen from your own perspective. And I find that so inconsequential. Like, I don't understand how I missed the value in that. And so with that being said, I would like to, and I am, it's now I would like to, I am creating this YouTube channel as a intersection of me documenting my writing journey, of me talking about creativity, about me talking about shadow work and consciousness and growing and awareness in that spirituality, in that philosophical sense that I used to make videos about and just did not see the value in just my voice. Like, this has really been a journey of seeing the value in just my voice and seeing that this voice matters and this voice is valuable, and people like, not that they care, but if they listen, they find value in it. And also, I do not also see people talking about creativity and spirituality together in conjunction. I do not see people talking about art and healing in conjunction. I do not see people talking about social responsibility in art and spirituality in conjunction, and how they all feed into each other. Like, our consciousness informs the collective reality that we live in. Us as individuals form the collective, and then that collective forms society. And society right now tells us there is something like undoubtedly screwed about our consciousness, as it's so limited, it's so boring. Why do we keep rehashing the same things? Like, we could even see this from art and media, and how they just keep being recycled, about how our policies that just keep being recycled, our Instagram reels, social media things. I remember a time when it was innovative and new and creative, and every person was individualized and individuated with it, but now it's just so repetitive and so uninspiring. Like, there's no growth and no expansion from that. It's very rare where I see something that stimulates me in a way that grows. I have to actively hunt for it, and it's either productivity, art, or spirituality, and they're all under different umbrellas. They're all from different places, but I want to see how they overlap and work and enter and juxtaposition, and how everything intersects, because we intersect as humans. We are interdependent as humans, and I might have gone off the rails there with that, but I just felt like I wanted to make this video now, and I'm gonna upload it, and I don't care how it performs. This is just the starting of a new chapter for me. This is how I started my first YouTube channel, and I was a little bit more fearful in that process. In this process, there's just more anticipation, and I'm looking around because I'm still a little self-conscious, but more so the more I've been talking, I'm just like, I hope you can hear me, because I don't have on a mic, and I don't know where my mic is. And I'm excited for this journey of just documenting and sharing and engaging and connecting in this parasocial way. And hopefully it becomes more than just parasocial. Hopefully it builds a whole community, and it grows into something that I have no idea about, but I'm starting here. I want to document this creativity. I want to document this inner healing. I want to document this growth in the spiritual awareness, and having creativity be a path of consciousness. Creativity as an act of spiritual growth. Spirituality as an act of rebellion. Finding your voice and figuring out that it matters. whatever you have to give and contribute matters. Artists and creatives matter, and art is beyond just the fine arts. It is anything that you bring into life that was not previously there, using your imagination to create something that was not there before, innovating, seeing something new, seeing the truth in a new way, whatever the case may be. Being a visionary is being an artist. Being a visionary is being a creative. Being a spiritual being that is awakening and seeing the whole totality of their soul is an artist, because artists create no matter the form of that creativity. My sons love to build stuff. Like, they build, like today he just made a camera out of a coconut box, a coconut water box. Okay, do that. That's your creativity. They do things all the time that just blow my mind of what they come up with and create using the materials and the resources they have. And I'm sure that's just how I'm feeling now, but that deep wound that I have of inadequacy, that deep wound that I have of being irrelevant, the deep fear that I have that we're just going to keep creating the same stuff in the world can all be transmuted into creativity and things. So this is the reveal to my new chapter. I'm going to talk more about Project Stock Market in a different video and have a whole playlist about that, because I'm actively drafting that right now. Like, I'm revising the stakes and the motivations in chapter 1 to further fix the rest of the stuff, because I have 20 chapters drafted, and I'm just going through the chapters and fixing the stakes and the inciting incident and how that relates to what I've gotten up to right now. And then I'm going to finish drafting this first draft of Project Stock Market. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Asia again. Please subscribe if you've gotten this far. Please share your writing journey or how you're finding this video and what's related to you. If anything has related to you, if anything stood out to you thus far, please leave it in the comments. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.